They moved into the house 3 months after the wedding. It was one of those quiet, settled neighborhoods, the kind with towering oak trees that cast long shadows in the afternoon, cracked sidewalks patched over the years, and mailboxes that leaned slightly from seasons of wind, snow, and time. The kind of place where people knew each other's dogs but not always each other's names, where garage sales happened every spring and the same Halloween decorations came out each October. The house itself had been in his family for decades. His parents had built it in the 70s, slowly expanding it over the years. A nursery when his brother was born, then a sunroom added after a big tax return, and eventually the back porch was enclosed and turned into an office. Every part of the house felt like it had been stitched onto the original structure with purpose, like layers of memory cemented into wood and brick, each telling a different chapter of his life. He adored it. That was clear from the very first time he brought her there, even before they were married. His eyes lit up as he walked through the rooms, showing her everything, like a child showing off a beloved treehouse. He pointed to a dent in the hallway wall and said, "My brother crashed a remote control car into that when we were 10. The uneven floorboard by the back door? That was from when Dad tried to fix a plumbing leak and ended up flooding the laundry room. Every crack, every creak, every odd fixture had a backstory." He moved through the house like it was a living scrapbook, and she watched him glow with familiarity. At first, she found it charming. The way he cherished the place made her feel like she was being offered a place in something that had roots. She tried to see it the way he did, to understand its quirks and grooves. She memorized which steps creaked, which windows stuck in the winter, which cabinet needed a little extra push to close. She started referring to rooms by the same nicknames he used. The Nook, Mom's Corner, the Blue Room. She wanted it to feel like home for both of them. But as the months passed, she began to feel less like a new chapter and more like a footnote. There were no pictures of her in the hallway. Not yet, but they also never talked about adding any. The furniture hadn't changed since his parents moved out. She hadn't picked out a single thing in the house. The couch cushions sagged in familiar ways, molded by decades of someone else's sitting. The dining table had a deep scratch across its surface that made him smile. "That's from when I dropped a toolbox helping Dad fix the chandelier," he said once with pride. When she gently suggested replacing the faded floral curtains, he looked startled. "My mom sewed those by hand," he said. It wasn't unkindness. He wasn't mean or dismissive. But everything about the house, the layout, the decor, the energy, pulled her toward the past, his past. And without realizing it, she had stepped into that world quietly, taking up as little space as possible. They had what most would consider a peaceful life. On paper, it worked. They didn't argue. He brought her coffee on Sunday mornings. They watched the same shows together and had a favorite Thai place they ordered from on Fridays. They worked side by side on puzzles in the winter. From the outside, it probably looked like a stable, content marriage. But inside, she was slowly softening, folding in on herself, becoming smaller so she wouldn't knock anything over. The kitchen especially never felt like hers. She would reach for a whisk she'd put away, only to find it missing, moved without explanation. Ingredients she never used began appearing in the pantry, things his mom had always kept on hand. When she suggested rearranging the spice rack or moving the coffee mugs, he just looked puzzled. Not opposed exactly, just confused as to why anything needed to change. The house had 2 entrances. The main front door, with a tarnished brass knocker and a small window, and a side door that led into the laundry room. Everyone used the side door. Delivery people, friends, family, even them. The front door looked untouched, as though it had never really been part of daily life, more of a symbol than a function. One gray afternoon, during a steady rain, she stood by the front door and watched the water trickle down the glass. The house was quiet. No TV, no music, no conversation. And she realized she had never entered this house as someone being welcomed. Not once had she walked through that door with a sense of ceremony. She had entered through the side, the back way, the way someone familiar but peripheral might. And now, even after months, she still felt like she was sneaking in. That night, he told a story she had already heard, about a camping trip, a raccoon, and his brother's failed attempt at catching fish. She laughed at the right parts, nodded when expected, and said nothing. He didn't notice her silence. Or if he did, he didn't ask. She didn't cry that night, didn't say anything at all. But something shifted, quietly, like a breeze moving curtains, soft but unmistakable. She started making changes. Small ones at first, a lamp in the hallway that cast a warmer light, towels in the bathroom in a deep teal she loved, even though they clashed with everything else. She moved the spice rack, sorted it by frequency instead of alphabet. When he asked about the missing paprika, she said, "Top right." He blinked, then nodded. She started using the front door. Each morning she unlocked it and stepped out as if it were the most natural thing in the world. It wasn't dramatic, just a quiet routine, a way to remind herself that she was here, really here, that she had the right to enter through the front. She invited her sister to visit. They cooked late into the night, played old playlists, danced a little in the kitchen. The house smelled different for days, something zesty and unfamiliar. He didn't complain, but he spent most of the time in the garage, tinkering with old tools. She changed more things, bought a new doormat, rearranged the bookshelves, put a photo of her family on the side table. He noticed, of course, but didn't say much. He seemed to float just slightly out of reach, as though waiting for everything to settle back to normal. She found herself thinking more about all the times she'd quietly adjusted herself in life, taken jobs she didn't love, stayed in friendships that no longer fit, let conversations pass without speaking her truth. This house was simply the most obvious version of that habit. One night, sitting in the sunroom wrapped in a throw blanket, she stared out at the dark yard. Wind rustled the trees, and the faint hum of the heater came through the vents. She looked at the old couch, the curtains, the photo wall, and felt like a guest in her own life. She still cared about him. That wasn't the problem. But the house had a gravity. It kept pulling everything, and everyone, back to what had always been. And she didn't want to spend the rest of her life orbiting someone else's memories. Eventually they talked. Quietly, honestly. She told him that she felt invisible in the house, that she had tried to carve out space, but the walls always pushed back. He looked surprised, hurt. "I didn't mean to make you feel that way," he said. "I know," she replied, and she meant it. But she still left. No big scene, no shouting. Just a few bags and one last look around before she closed the front door. The one she'd finally claimed as hers. She moved into a small apartment above a bakery. The floor creaked more than the old house. The water took forever to heat up. The radiator hissed at night. But everything inside was hers. She chose every lamp, every mug, every pillow. She hung pictures without asking. Burned candles that smelled like lavender. The books on the shelf were ones she'd actually read. And every morning she walked through the front door. Not because it was symbolic, but because it felt right. Because she no longer had to ask herself if she belonged. She just did. Thank you for listening. Until the next heartbeat in a story. Subscribe and stay for more love in every word.